Prince Charles was in the driving seat this morning as he left Highgrove, knowing the road is now officially clear for him to continue his relationship with Camilla Parker Bowles.
She had a lot of ingredients that Charles really fell in love with, and he never really fell out of love with her. So it is a very romantic story.
8 days now to the wedding. Prince Charles, how are you feeling?
Well, it's a very nice thought, isn't it?
She's his soulmate, she's his best friend, and they're really lucky that they've got that royal connection. She's got a wonderful, caring, compassionate side to her, which I think is important to be a monarch.
You know, she is the perfect person to stand at Prince Charles's side.
She's a wonderful woman, and she's made our father very happy, which is the most important thing.
How are you feeling, ma'am?
All right.
Just all right?
I'm just coming down to earth.